Good day, evening, everybody. My equal people, you all, you humans. Hello, welcome to the show. Got a great show for you today. Full of pride, art, life. On Nobody Knows Anything. Got AJ Ciccotelli, my friend, artist, creator. Let's go. Here we are. Is this thing off? Can never tell. Here we go. Pronunciator. We need this.
Pronouncenames.com.
Oh, god damn it. He's gonna come on and I'm learning how to pronounce his name. Ciccotelli. Tony Ciccotelli. Tony Ciccotelli. This is for plug pronounce names on YouTube.
Do we have the correct pronunciation of your name?
We'll ask Ms. Tony Ciccotelli and see if that's correct. Ciccotelli.
Hello.
Hi, Anthony. How you doing, Tony?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I build a set every time.
So would it look bad if I had headphones on?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, once a queen, always a queen. It's like, oh, fuck my interview. How's my hair?
Yeah, I have a bunch of stuff that I wanted to ask you, and just to, I guess, start it off, I will say your post is what triggered me to say, you know what, I think I should have a conversation with Tony, because you did a post to commemorate Stonewall.
Right.
And I was like, oh my gosh, like I went on a binge of just like studying a little bit.
Uh-huh.
And just like as a little bit of background, I have this like this little Beatles pin here, the Shiva statue to represent my parents, because when I was in like 7th grade, they both came out as gay, and they had like a fairly amiable divorce. So I was like, Tony is talking about, but they were like, I had a great supportive, upbringing, and I'm like, Tony's talking about Stonewall, and I know it as a thing, but I don't really know much about it, and I feel like it's kind of part of my heritage in a way.
Sure.
So I was like, I need to learn about it, and I wanted to talk with you a little bit, just about, but also not just about that, but about being an artist and about your film. And I hoped that at some point, if you didn't mind, that I could include the trailer in this thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I'm not going to claim to be like a historian on Stonewall, but the thing that I feel that's so important, I mean, I was like 2 years old when Stonewall happened. It was 1969. I was born 67. I didn't hear about Stonewall until I was maybe in my late teens, sneaking information. You have to understand, this is 1980s coming out, there's no history books on any LGBTQ plus, whatever. It's basically, we had no history. So the thing is with Stonewall, which I think people tend to forget, is it was a revolt. It wasn't just, a bunch of gay folks, deciding to wear provocative clothing, walking down the street, holding hands. It was a time where homosexuality was illegal in the States. And it was a time where a lot of political things were happening in 69. Mayor Lindsay, the mayor of New York City, wanted to be reelected. And so he was cracking down on a lot of the gay bars, which were kind of very secretive. Most of them were run by mafia types, because, and charging, what I've known from the documentaries on this subject is that they would overcharge the drinks and water them down, and that was your meeting place for gay folks to meet each other. Back in the day, you could not like just go anywhere and just say I'm gay and whatnot. There were places where people met, which were gay bars back then. And what happened what I know about Stonewall is that there was a raid earlier that week But on June 28th, 1969, the cops came in to raid it, and people were done. They were done. The thing I think why it also happened was, it was the 60s. That we had, the women's marches, we had, the black marches, and so it was like you can't oppress us anymore. You can't, put us in hiding and make us fearing for our lives. Back in that time, if you were outed as gay, you could lose your job. You could a whole bunch of different things. And it was also classified as a mental illness, which was lifted within the next 3 years after Stonewall. I think it's 74, so that was about 5 years, I think.
When they,
Again, I'm not a historian,
that's
but
when they
I think
took it out of the
what
DSM, Tony, right?
what?
That's when they took it out of the DSM.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I saw that date, and I just to think that it was like, I don't know, like a little over a decade before I was born.
Yeah.
It was the when you see the history of it, it's so recent, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I think LGBTQ history is fascinating because you have look at a group of men and women who whatever you identify as, who had to fight like mad, but at the same time it was, when you're African American, when you're Asian, when you're, most Hispanic, you that you are born with traits where people can identify you. So with LGBTQ, you know, basically became about, when you came out, it was about taking ownership and identity of yourself, and also being a role model to others to do the same. Now, I think that's really hard for me, because there were many times in my life where I just, for whatever reason, I would just not talk about it, or just say stuff that, just to get out of conversations about it. I also grew up in that time. I envy the younger folks because they have a lot. I wouldn't say an easier time. They have other things that they have to combat that we never had. The cyberbullying and all this other jazz. But back then it was really, really tough to come out. I honestly, in '85, I was even in theater, high school theater. No one came out. After, of course, we graduated, there were a couple of us who were gay, but we never talked about it. We never, said, "Oh, I haven't met the right girl." That was usually,
That was the line.
yeah, that was usually the line, just to get out of conversations, because, it was just too rough. It was just too rough. Yeah, so that's kind of my thing with Stonewall. I think, and this whole thing with this straight parade thing, at first I was like really kind of weighing in on it and saying, okay, everyone has the right to celebrate their whatever. But at the same time, I was thinking about this, this dude who wants to do this. I mean, what I've read up on him, and I'm not going to claim that I'm an expert on this man's life, is that he's doing it as a reaction against gay pride, which, if it was done with love and it was done with, okay, let's celebrate, being heterosexual, okay. But this is more, this is more about, I think, just, as a reaction. And, when has being a heterosexual, um, illegal, or a mental illness?
Right,
So you look at Stonewall and the parade, it's about revolt. It's about saying, no, I'm not doing this anymore.
right.
And, like the history of it too, with the AIDS crisis of the '80s, it was abominable how gay men with AIDS were treated. It was like so inhuman, what they had to go through. So I think, for me, that I'm up for parades. I actually miss parades because I just don't like crowds. But I'm up for hearing about parades as long as they're done in some kind of spirit of authenticity.
Right.
You know, I I love a good 4th of July parade or Thanksgiving parade. But they're done with some kind of authenticity. I think if it's done because we they get their parade but get ours. You know, I don't know. I just have a big problem with that.
I understand, and it reminds me of when Black Lives Matter, was coming out, and then there was
Right.
that kind of reaction in a similar way, where it was like, "Well, all lives matter,"
Right. Right.
Felt
But
like a reaction that distracted from the point. It was
yeah,
when it came
yeah,
to the gay pride parade, like, and you're talking about Stonewall. Um, I mean, like you're saying, it was an uprising, and it was a time of like saying, hey, we're here, and we're tired of like feeling shame. We want to be proud of ourselves, and it
mhm,
was a moment of like shining light on human beings that
yeah,
like have a right to be, and then
and solidarity.
solid,
Like
right?
there were transgender, there were, every single color,
Yeah,
fighting at this riot. That's the other thing that I think when the movie Stonewall came out a couple of years ago, people were really upset by that because they had they kind of whitewashed it. I mean, I haven't seen the movie, so I'm not gonna say, but I think what I heard about it was that it was kind of whitewashed. I think it was the white boy from Iowa or Midwest or whatever threw the brick, and it was, if you look at the pictures from that riot, from the Stonewall riots, it's mixed. It's mixed. It's every kind of group,
right,
ethnic wise and gender wise.
right.
So I think that was like an amazing, and I think finally 50 years later, do you hear the Yankees like did a whole salute to it
Oh, wow.
on Pride? Yeah. I forgot what it was, but I think that's like so cool, so cool. That you know I think with the way the world's going, I think mutual respect and admirations for all people. I mean, I think that's important, and learning the history of people. Like you mentioned Black Lives Matter. Yeah, that's really frustrating because when you say, what they're saying is that let's stop racial profiling. That we matter a little bit. We shouldn't be the ones that are picked on and harassed and shot.
Right.
You know, and then when we say all lives matter, it's again, I feel like it's coming from a place of a kind of like you know first of all, I think it's a little naive, like on their part, thinking that, oh, you know coming, that I know what you're going through and I should matter as much as you. But that's not why it's called Black Lives Matter. That's not why this movement happened. It's because there's still, even in this day and age, there's so many injustices, that people are being picked on by their race.
Right.
And that's what that's about. It's not about, oh, we're superior to you. It's more on the lines of, we have the right to not be picked on and not be shot at because we're black.
Right.
Or we, like we're demonstrating our right as American citizens to walk down the street and hold hands with each other or kiss each other.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
there is like, if you're doing a straight pride parade, there's just a history, like you said, of being straight that doesn't include being stigmatized, or you know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah. And again, I feel like if it's a real cultural like thing that people want to celebrate that they were heterosexuals, I think, okay. But then again, I mean, so many parades where gays were excluded for many, many, many years. You know, I mean, I think there was a big controversy when I was at least in my 20s or 30s about the Irish parade. And the gays weren't allowed to march, so that would make that a straight pride parade.
Right.
I mean, I don't know, I just think it's really reactionary, and I think it's kind of like missing the whole point of it. It's almost like, you know saying that, we should, like, it's like a privilege parade, when it was never intended to be a privilege parade. There's nothing privileged about being gay.
Right. When you say all this, and when you were talking too about Stonewall being such a mixture of diversity, two of the people that I learned about this week after your post that are now like up on my guru shrine are the Marsha P. Johnson,
Oh, yes.
Rivera.
Did you see the documentary?
Yes, I did. And
Yeah. Wow.
broke my
Wow.
heart. That was
Yeah,
such a
it's
beautiful
heartbreaking.
uh,
Yeah.
and Sylvia Rivera's plight throughout it, how
Right.
was on the street for so much of it, and it was so touching. But
Yeah.
now
Like,
within the
they
oh, go ahead.
it's like the thing that I always find so remarkable is so many of our early leaders were, at that time they called them drag queens. I don't know what, I'm just being naive, because I don't know what the proper terminology for those actual people, what they would identify as, because back then I don't remember transgender being something in the vocabulary for a long time. And that goes, I'm kind of dealing with it in the script I'm writing right now, because, there is a distinct difference. Back then there wasn't much, like, I mean, just in how people were classified. Um, I could be totally wrong about that, and don't go by, but most of the people that I understand, the big leaders in the early days, were, a lot of them were transgender, and and when the gay rights kind of moved forward, they were kind of forgotten or heckled at.
Mhm.
They were almost like, hey, we don't want to be identified with you,
Right. At
which
the
is so wrong on so many levels.
There's this speech with Sylvia Rivera where it was
Yeah.
the Gay Pride, I think, 1973 parade, and it was on
Hmm.
Christopher Street, I think, where
Hmm.
Stonewall is, and the organizers of the parade had decided we don't want, at that point the term they used was transsexual. Even I think
Okay.
Marsha P. Johnson,
Right.
her
Transsexual.
house,
You're
and
correct. You're
it's
correct.
it's different
Thank
now, but they said we don't want you guys in the parade. Like they were not allowed to march as part of the Pride parade, and so they like marched in front of it and demonstrated. And there's this amazing speech that I think I'm going to
you.
include at the end, where
Mhm.
it's Sylvia just saying, "Hey, like we need to be solid. Like this is all, for all of us." And
That is absolutely right.
and it
That's
still seems
absolutely
like it's going
right.
on right now because now the like transgender is what's connected to the DSM. So that's like gender dysphoria is that's what's the mental sort of illness now. And there's all this controversy within the community about, I guess, whether or not how you're valid. And it seems kind of it seems hard. It just the fighting within this community that's struggled so much is hard.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I think, this is my belief. I think, you know, if you identify with the sex that you weren't born with, I think that's who you are. I think, I think I'm naive. I wish I had more transgender friends that could educate me a little bit. Where I live right now, I mean, if I run into a gay person, it's like, it's a miracle. So, so I have a few students that are, and they're great because they've educated me a lot. But but the thing about it is, it's my belief that, unless you're committing crimes and doing like things that hurt other people, who cares?
Right.
Who cares? You
Right.
know, if you want to identify, like, if you were born a male, and you identify with being a female or vice versa,
Right.
If you're a cool person, I want to hang out with you.
Right.
Oh,
Right.
I mean, period. There's no discussion.
Right.
I believe that, the thing is that there are two things in life, and this is going to sound cliche: love and and fear. I wouldn't even say hate. I think hate's part of fear.
Yeah.
And the thing is that when you look into another human being's soul, it's not what they look like. It's not how they, it's their actions and who they are. And if you want, I think if more people were authentic about who they are, the world would be such a better place to live.
Right.
Whatever you are, gay, straight, bisexual, transgender, asexual, it's like cool as long as you're not hurting other people. Who gives a fuck?
Right. And to bring it into your love and fear like dualism, it's like that. It seems like when you really are your authentic self, like you're loving yourself,
Yeah, then you
and
can love other people.
right, and then you that vibrates out. You love others, but if you're not being your inauthentic self, you may almost hate yourself in a way. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
It does feel you're afraid to be your authentic self.
yeah,
It does feel like love and hate or love and fear.
yeah.
Like
I
you're
have a lot of issues with nothing, some religious factions who use God and as a tool to hate other people.
hmm
Um, Half the stuff doesn't make sense, especially the ones who go into the Bible about certain things about homosexuality, about it being immoral, aberration, and a whole bunch of different things. Also on that list, I believe is shell food.
yeah.
Yeah, seafood, some seafood, and pork, and a bunch of other different things that don't pertain. I think we forget that the Bible is man written. It's not God did not come down and write the Bible himself.
hmm
Men did.
Right.
And I think the thing is you can interpret the Bible, and I honestly believe the Bible is one of the greatest stories ever told. I think it's just epic and amazing in so many ways, but in some ways, I just feel like, don't use God as a messenger of hate, because I can't really say I'm religious at all. I grew up Catholic, and I can't really say that I don't believe in God. I can't really say I believe in God. I'll tell you when I'm dead.
Right.
If he exists, then, if he exists, I have a lot of questions for him. If he
Right.
doesn't, well, okay, that's the way it is. Okay.
Right.
So, but I just hate when you see these picketers at people's funerals, and like all fags go to hell and all that stuff, and they're what kind of church believes in that?
Right.
That's I don't know.
Right. My favorite little thing, like where they offered a little bit of healing after a bunch of oppression, was there was some pride parade recently where like some church came out. I forgot who the church was or anything, but they had all these signs that were just like, we're sorry, like we love you and we're sorry for all the bad representation that like religious people, and they were like behind the pride march, and they had all these signs about like we love Jesus and we're so sorry that people treat you this way and we love you.
Yeah, I know a lot of Christians who are the most amazing people on the earth.
Right.
They are kind, they're forgiving, they're loving, and they know who they are. And I think that's the key. Sure, you love God and you love Jesus and everything else, but then it's like, show it, do the good work.
Right.
And there's a lot of people out there who do the good work,
Right.
but it's like these others who I don't know. I mean, I don't know. To me, I always try to put myself, because as a writer and as an actor, and as a director, I try to put myself in other people's shoes, and I'm just kind of wondering, like, if I had to play someone like some of these religious types who preach hate,
Right.
what is that about? And I think a lot of it is it's this fear. It's this absolute fear that I'm going against the things I was brought up with, those values. But if your values are strong, well, then what's your problem, man?
Right.
It's what's your problem if it's that strong? If you believe that, okay, marriage is between a man and a woman, okay, and then okay, let's change it to man and man, woman and woman, okay. Okay, so it's still, you still could get married to a woman. It's not like, oh, men marry men, women marry women, and men and women are not allowed to be married.
Right.
It's not like that.
Right.
It's so silly. It's like
when more people get rights, it doesn't take away from any individual's rights. It just
yeah, exactly. And this whole thing with, oh, because the role models come out, it might make my child gay, blah, blah, blah. Well, I don't know. I had a lot of heterosexual propaganda thrown at me when I was growing up, and that did not happen.
Right. And I just think
And-
about, like, the kids that need like that history. I mean, we all need that history, because if everyone got it, we would just have more empathy for all people. And then the
yeah.
kids that needed that history because they personally needed it to identify with and to say, hey, I'm going through this too.
Hmm.
It's like, it's so weird for me to think about not sharing that with children, the world, and everyone.
Right. Yep.
But you say, I like how you brought up writing and thinking about writing, because I've had this thought as we're going through the writing program that we're going through together. I'm a new writer in terms of like looking at my writing and trying to get better. And like
Sure.
I've had this thought of like, when I'm my best writer, I feel like in some ways I'm being my most like empathetic.
Yes.
You
Yes.
have to understand these. You even have to understand people who you would never think like them. You have to.
Yeah, or even have dinner with, like,
Right.
that, yeah. And I think as a writer, I think you got to be fair on both sides, Um, even with our monsters, that we conjure up, we have to know like how they became a monster and what this monster is about, okay? So the thing is that if you make the fight too easy, if it's like they're just despicable monsters and that's all they are, then it's like, what do I, like, as the audience member watching this, it's like, what do I learn from it? Oh, I'm on the good side.
Right.
Okay, cool, done. I think I just went to see a movie this afternoon. I wasted like $12 to know that I'm on the good side.
Right. Is that how you felt after the movie you watched, Tony? Like,
Oh no, that one's complicated. It was Midsummer.
oh,
That's
I really want to watch it.
yeah. I gotta think about that one. I mean, I think it's so hallucinatory. Then I feel like a little bit like I feel like I tripped out halfway through the movie. It's not for the squeamish. There's some stuff in it that's really, but I really admire this guy. I really loved Hereditary last year. I thought, and I'm a big horror fan, and I know his stuff could really wear thin on people because I mean it requires a lot of processing. And I think some people just want their horror movies straight.
Right.
Here's Freddy Krueger. Here's Jason with an axe.
Like you're saying,
Running in the forest. Yeah. But I think he's more like a horror surrealist. I think he's a complete surrealist. I think what's his name, Ari Aster or something like that.
I don't
I'm
know.
so terrible. I'm a filmmaker and I don't know any of the filmmakers' names. I do know Martin Scorsese. Okay, I do know him.
I
But
know Jordan Peele, and I know Jordan
oh
Peele
my God, I love Jordan Peele.
down to me.
I'm still processing Us.
Me too.
It's the only time I saw Get Out, and the only time I've ever watched a movie where the first time I watched it, I was laughing hysterically because of this. I got all the satire down, okay? And then the second time I saw it, I was like, I am scared shitless. This movie's freaking me out. Okay, that never happens. Usually I see a movie and I feel so many different things, and then I see it again and it flattens, where I feel like Get Out like has a lot of texture and stuff, and Us I'm still processing. You
Right.
know, I gotta see that again. I think the first half is terrifying. The second half, I'm like, I either hate this movie or I love it.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that, you know, when I don't know what to make out of it.
Yeah.
Usually those movies I watch again and then they become like my movies. Whereas like, you know, where I feel like all the others are like one night stands,
Uh
you
huh.
know, and I feel like this is like serious dating.
Right.
Like I'm gonna watch it a few times before it enters my collection. As you see,
Yeah.
I have tons of movies behind me.
Yeah, those are the committed relationships back there.
Yeah. And I'm kind of a whore that way. I have a lot of
Yes.
movies.
We should all be art horrors.
People collect paintings. I collect movies. You know,
Yeah.
what can you say? What can you say?
How does your what's the story on Ripples of Water, Tony? How did that
Wow. Okay. So I have two films out right now. I have Ripples of Water and The Dance. And
did I see
Ripples.
a small piece of sorry to interrupt. Did I see a small piece of the dance?
Yeah, you saw it. You saw the rough cut you saw that in Iowa.
Yes.
You saw the
Oh,
rough cut of it. Yeah. Well, it's even better now because we tightened it a little bit, and we also the sound is like 1,000 times better.
okay.
Um, so so Ripples, both of them started out as plays. Ripples was actually a monologue that was produced in the 1990s, and it was really kind of funny because the guy who performed it took off all of his clothes for the performance, and so no one was talking about my monologue. They were talking about
Oh
that
yeah. Yeah.
anatomy. Okay, so and he was a great actor and everything, but it was like okay, it was one of the strangest experiences only because you know people were talking about like they were either offended that he took off his clothes or they were like, oh my god, this stuff happening there. And I was like, oh god, no one's talking about this beautiful monologue about this young man falling in love for the first time and like you know almost drowned and like realized he was gay and blah blah blah. So in the late 90s, I turned it into one. I was going to do a full length play, and I turned it into. I only got Act One done. At the time, I was fascinated with older men, and I still am. I always dated older men, and so the thing was that I kind of worked. I wanted to play the younger man part in it, and then like sat in my drawer for like 20 years. And then someone I knew through the theater community out here in New Jersey contacted me out of the blue. He said that he was usually goes away to Italy every year, and he knew I did Rainbow Festival, and he wanted to perform. Is there anything he could send me for him to consider to perform? And he's, you know, known in New Jersey. His name is Giancarlo Durland, and he's known in the community as a great actor. And you know, I never got to see him act, but I heard so many great things about him. So I sent him the one act version of Ripples of Water, and he loved it. He championed it, and then we did the play, and it was a good 50-minute play, and two people. We hired someone who played. You know, the thing that was really cool is that this time I revised the play, and I was the older man. I had that life experience, so I kind of played it. So I worked. At that time, his name was Philip. He became Caleb in the movie, and then so when I was a younger man, I really worked that character because I wanted to play that character. And now being older, I had an opportunity to work on Peter as a character. What is it like to be an older gay man? What is it like to be not the beefcake, you know, that you were once? You know, what is it like to be, you know, on your 50th birthday and single, and all that other stuff? And they performed it. It was you know, it was so well received in New Jersey, and you know, we started to talk about making a film version of it. But the issue is, it takes place at a beach house, and I was like, who has a beautiful beach house we could shoot at. So luckily, Carlo's friends came to see it, Carolyn and Bruce Walsh, and they came to see it, and I always credit them. And I get a phone call from Carlo and said, guess what? My friends Carolyn and Bruce came to see the show. They loved it. She cried. They loved it so much. They have a $2.5 million house on the beach. I'm gonna, if it's okay with you, I'm gonna approach them. We're gonna make the movie there. So they were such sweethearts. We shot the movie in 8 days. The play closed in the beginning of June 2017. We had a finished script, at least a draft by. Carlo keeps on saying June 30th. I remember it's like more like July 14th or something. But soon after, we had a 118-page script, which opened up the story completely. We had his birthday party. We had all of his friends. We made this really a family affair. We hired all these actors that we knew, that we loved, and who were great, and we kind of utilized them. We used both Carlo and Phil Kors, who plays Caleb in the film, who reprised their stage roles. And sorry, we shot it in 8 days, principal photography. It was crazy and amazing. 8 days, we just did it very quickly, and we planned it to the T, and it took 14 months to edit. And we had our premiere in Q-Flix in Philadelphia, and it won the Audience Award for Best Feature. So we had that this past March, and it became semi-finalist at Shanghai Pride, and it a bunch of different awards. It won like a merit award for depth of field in Delaware, and Carlo won exceptional merit for his performance. And yeah, and a couple of other things too. I mean, it's out there, and we just had it at my True Colors Festival, which was great. It was the 50th Stonewall Pride Parade, and the next day, and we were showing the film in New York City, and so that was great. And the dance was also the thing that was really cool. So it was this past Saturday, 29th. It was noon showing of Ripples in Water, and 5:30 in Asbury Park showing of the dance at Jersey Shore Film Festival. And the short just won best film adaptation. The dance just won for that. So really cool. I'm so thrilled. I like making movies. I just want to keep on doing it. And, I always say, after David Lynch, I'd start David Lynch. I was like, oh, I wish I had David Lynch program before I made the movies. But you know what? Hey, every early work, my early work as a filmmaker is there. And, if I was perfect, then maybe that would have been the only one. So I have hopefully a couple more years to perfect my filmmaking skills. Yeah. And I just love it. I just love doing it. I love everyone in it. And, it's just when you have talented people around you, utilize them. Just utilize them. Put them in your freaking movie. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that it was a family affair on some levels, these two movies,
Yeah. On the dance, my dear friend Christine Nagy, who's a radio personality on Light FM out here in New York, she championed it. Very similar stories in 1990. It was my first produced play. It was called The Dance, and it was based on a breakup I had. You're a young man and you're just feeling heartbroken. So you decided to write this breakup, okay? And you invite the person you broke up with. But, he's a man, the character's a woman. Maybe, it's just disguising things a little bit, a little bit like therapy. It was a terrible, terrible play. But the thing I loved about it, and I revised it so many times. Um, there was something so pure about it. The writing was just awful, but there was something, that intention was so pure. So that I revised it a good dozen times before 2014, which was, I feel like, the definitive version of that play. And Christine Nagy, who's a good friend of mine, she played the woman role in it, and she's championed this. And and I did not know how to make this into a movie. It's such a stage play. It's a memory play. It's very much like Tennessee Williams, and I was like, I have no idea how to do this. And then, like, I caught the big fish that one morning when I woke up, and I said, I know exactly how to do it. I know exactly how to make it cinematic. So that's how that happened. Yeah.
My memory of it is that, because you're talking about some of these, I think it was that the characters from Ripples you were talking about, but how you had this well-rounded like experience with both the characters because of just living life.
Yeah.
I felt that when I watched the dance. I was like, because you had told us a little bit about it, and like its evolution, and I feel like I felt all that when I watched what you showed us in Iowa, because it felt like because it's about the play too, right? It's about putting on the play.
Yes.
It felt like so many layers, and all that you went through, I feel like I got something from it that felt that layer.
Oh,
Good. Like I
good.
lived a tiny piece of all that too. So
Yeah. It's so funny. It's like, you show the film, and then, I feel like some people get it, and then because there's so many layers, some people go, what's happening? So thank you for getting it. It's really awesome. Yeah. Cool.
good. And it's like I just had I felt, just all the feels and gooey and gushy. I just was in it, and
Yeah. Cool. I wanted, with that one, it's a process of putting on a play. But then it's like, the question is your work of art ever finished? I mean, this is a place, my first produced play, 1990. Okay. I was, what, 23 years old, something like that, and 22, yeah, something like that. And I kept on revising it over and over and over and over and over. Now it's a film version. It's like, I mean, the question at the end of that movie is it finished? And it's like, is it ever finished?
yeah,
The other thing is, like, I ask, in that play is like, in that movie is, why did we create? Is it because of this need to tell a good story, or is it something deeper that you want to express?
right.
Yeah.
I love these notes, Tony, and if you don't mind, and you can ask or say anything you want to add too, but
Sure.
we're talking about finishing and are you ever finished? And I think that's a good note to finish. But I love it because everything it came together, and I think that's what I love about your short film that I saw, and all of the things that I love is that it's very human, and I get this. I get a human experience vibe from it, and those questions and everything you said about creativity being a therapeutic process for you, and about are you ever really evolved or done. I mean, that's how I'm constantly
Yeah.
myself in the world and my art that I'm working on.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a good question to have, because I think we're constantly digging deeper, right? Uh, we wouldn't be in David Lynch program if we were like, let's keep it shallow and safe.
Yeah.
Let's go deeper and deeper, right? Cool.
Yeah.
Good beans.
Is there
Awesome.
is there any where Tony, that people can go to watch anything, or is there anything you want to like say to shout out? Or
Right now, I would say that we're waiting to hear back from a bunch of festivals. I can't really release anything online until, let's say, we're done with the festival run. I mean, that's going to probably take us to probably to the beginning of 2020.
okay,
We have things. I mean, there's some big things that we applied for. And so once we find out, you certainly, anyone can look up my website, www.ajciccotelli.com, Facebook, AJ Ciccotelli, Twitter. I had to do the whole thing for these film festivals. I'm like, okay, I just got to learn how to run them all because it's like I could do Facebook, but Instagram, and so I had someone do Instagram for me. Twitter, I have no idea. I know Trump uses it, so I avoid it. But
But they're all AJ Ciccotelli for Instagram.
yes, yes. Some are A period J period Ciccotelli.
Cool.
I can send you a whole link if you want to do a post on it.
Yeah, I'll put it in the bio of the video.
Yeah, exactly. I could do all that for you. Yeah, just follow me because I mean it's going to be an interesting ride. I mean, right now we don't have anything lined up. But you know, like yesterday, I got an email from festival curator who saw the trailer of Ripples and wanted us to submit to their festival. So who knows? You know, I got some like I applied to a bunch of big festivals, and you know, I mean, I know that's a long shot. You know, because you know when you think about it, Ripples is $5,000. We made it for 5,000. The dance we made for 2. I mean, we're competing against films that have a $2.5 million budget, you know, and that's independent. So, you know, we're competing against those guys. So, you know, I mean, I just think always like, you know, you cross your fingers, and I think it's not so much about making money and fame and all. It's about getting your story out there. And I like festivals because there's an opportunity for people who don't know your work to see your work. And, you know, I always think accolades are great. These awards are great. I just want to get more funds so I can make more films. That's my thing. You know, everything else is like just, you know, by osmosis.
Right.
Okay.
I love it. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
And I will support this film any way I can. So let me know. And there's a website, right? Ripples of Water.
Yeah, there's ripplesofwater.com. And there's also the danceshortmovie.com.
Okay.
I have too many websites, too many like social media. I can't even keep up.
The future.
The future. It's only gonna get worse. I'll have more movies, more websites, more blah blah blah.
Yes,
Well,
keep it coming, Tony. You're an inspiration to me.
well, so are you. I absolutely adore you. You are like, you constantly change your looks. I think that's awesome. At first, when I met you, I was like, oh my God, he's Jesus Christ. And then I was like, okay. Now he's like, I mean, you showed up in Iowa the last time. I was like, who's this hot looking young stud muffin? And I'm like, that's Andrew. That's my buddy, my brother. Okay, that's ew. That's gross. It's so gross. Now you're looking like cool hipster. I love it.
Thank you so much.
All right, my friend. Love you.
I can't wait to see you. I love you too, and I'll see you in like a month or so, right?
Yep. Oh my God, Iowa's coming.
All right, well, good luck with everything, Tony. I love you, and thank you so much.
Love you, buddy. Bye-bye.
Bye. That was Tony. Thank you, Tony, for joining us. I have got to go pee, but we will wrap up everything. Here's the trailer. Here's the credits. Here's everything. See you later.
You just find yourself questioning the very essence of reality, the entropy that surrounds and engulfs us all, and nothing will save you. Your portfolio, your stocks, because you will ultimately die alone. Call you on Monday. Love to Jeannie and the kids. Bye. All gay movies are low budget, and they can't afford the IMAX camera to capture my full figure.
say you look positively bloated in misery.
Give mama some sugar. No. It's okay. It's okay.
Incredible things happen every day. You know something incredible will happen to you.
Boys, look what the cat dragged in. Hi. Hey there.
I'm gonna kill him. I'm gonna rip his lungs out with my bare hands. Alright. Shirt on. So, ooh, I'm standing by the window. Are you ready? Let's do brunch is sacred.
Hey!
Hey, do you want to go to brunch or take a shower and spend the afternoon together? Caleb and I are going to take a shower! Brunch!
It's funny how you say like "see you later" and like you leave the set and then like you have to come back. Yeah. No one ever sees this part of the stuff anyway, though. That's the magic of editing, baby. Woo.
Nothing. I've been trying to get up here all day for your gay brothers and your gay sisters in jail. They're writing me every motherfucking week and ask for your help. And you all don't do a goddamn thing for them. Have you ever been beaten up and raped in jail? Now think about it. They've been beaten up and raped after they haven't spent much of their money in jail to get their cell and try to get their sex change. The women have tried to fight for their sex changes or to become women of the women's liberation. And they write STAR, not the women's group. They do not write women. They do not write men. They write STAR because we're trying to do something for them. I have been to jail. I have been raped and beaten many times by men, heterosexual men that do not belong in the homosexual shelter. But did you do anything for them? No, you all tell me to go and hide my tail between my legs. I will not no longer put up with this shit. I have been beaten. I have had my nose broken. I have been thrown in jail. I have lost my job. I have lost my apartment for gay liberation. And you all treat me this way? What the fuck's wrong with you all? Think about that. I do not believe in a revolution, but you all do. I believe in the gay power. I believe in us getting our rights, or else I would not be out there fighting for our rights. That's all I wanted to say to your people. If you all want to know about the people that are in jail, and do not forget Bambi Lamore and Dora Marks, Kenny Messner, and other gay people that are in jail, come and see the people at Star House on 12th Street, on 640 East 12th Street, between B and C, apartment 14. The people that are trying to do something for all of us, and not men and women that belong to a white middle class, white club. And that's what you all belong to. Revolution now! Give me a kiss! Give me an A! Give me a Y! Give me a P! Give me an O! Give me a W! Give me an E! Give me an O! Gay power! Louder, gay power!